Welcome to Show and Share. I'm Sue Landay from Trainer's Warehouse, and I'm joined today by Patti Massullo, who is an expert in using and training in the HRDQ Style series, the communication style in particular. Patti has over 30 years of experience in sales and management and has been training in corporate America for over a decade, managing 300 salespeople. She's lived in everywhere from New Jersey to Florida to South Carolina. So an East Coast person, but has moved around a lot. She and I really just met as we were getting ready to do this session today, because we've had a long relationship with HRDQ, as has she. And I'm happy to have you with us today. So I'm not going to do a super long introduction. If I left out important details, please feel free to add them. But I want to give you the floor.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. Okay, now, is everybody able to see my screen yet, or do I have to share again? I can't see.
You have to share again. I disabled it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, now
we're good. It's perfect.
We're good?
Take it away.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Sue. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today with you on behalf of HRDQ, and we're going to be talking about what's my communication style. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with communication, and you've probably taken all kinds of courses and assessments on communication style, but the HRDQ one is just a little bit different, and I happen to favor that one, so we're going to talk about that one today. And so one of the things I wanted to share was that the Harvard Business Review said the number one criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is the ability to communicate effectively. So that's one reason why communication styles are so important, because sometimes we have even found that some people are in the right people are in the wrong role in their companies. And so learning what our communication styles are is crucial to that. So we're going to talk about the HRDQ style model. This is the model, and I'm just going to explain to you briefly what this all means on the screen in front of you. So there's 4 different styles. We have the direct style, and we'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. And we have the spirited.
Reached out to me randomly via my work email to ask me if I wanted to be in this HR magazine. And I was like, whatever. And then I looked her up on LinkedIn to make sure it wasn't shady or anything. And I was like, okay, who knows what this is going to look like?
Um,
Hold on.
Somebody has their mic on or something.
Okay, I'm just muting everybody for right now because I'm not sure who it is.
That's fine.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. So the HRDQ style model in front of you, I'm going to explain a little bit about what this means. We have our direct, our spirited, our systematic, and our considerate. And what this graphic is showing you is that the direct and spirited person are both high in assertiveness. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides. And they're the type of people that will basically tell you. If there's something to be told, they will tell you. Where our systematic and considerate people are more on the low assertiveness. So they're going to ask you a question rather than tell you what it is, they're going to ask you. But the interesting thing is, if you look to the left, the direct and the systematic are low in expressiveness, so which basically means that they can control their emotions a little bit better. And if you look on the right, in the high expressiveness, you've got your spirited and your considerate, where they will really display their emotions more. They kind of wear their heart on their sleeve, so to speak. And I am a very high spirited. That's my number one. Very expressive. Use my hands a lot. You can see that in the video, I'm sure. And this also, by the way, helps you in your personal relationships, not just with work. And I'll give you an example in a few minutes how it's helped me. So our spirited person is very persuasive, right? They are enthusiastic. They tend to be more of the storytellers. They want to have fun all the time. And then we have our considerate person. The considerate is a really good listener. Everybody needs those good listeners in our life, right? They're reliable, but sometimes they can resist change because they like things to stay the way they are. Our systematic people are very efficient. They want the facts, they're detail-oriented, they want to cross all their T's and dot all their I's. And then we have our direct. This is our very decisive, risk taker. They can tend to be loud sometimes. That's my second one. So, and being a Northerner, I can tend to be loud sometimes and even talk too fast. So if I do, just let me know. So here's the dimensions.
So far.
Here are the dimensions of personality style. So with high assertiveness and high expressiveness, you're talking about your spirited person, right? So they will be very assertive, and they will also be very expressive at the same time. And then with our considerate people, they're going to be more low assertive, not quite as easy to assert themselves, but yet they're very good at expressing themselves. And we're going to talk in a minute what the difference between those two things are. And then with systematic people, they're very low assertiveness and low expressiveness, okay? And then we have the direct. They're very assertive, very high on the assertive scale, but very, very low in expressiveness. They want to just get to the point. They don't necessarily want to go through any details or anything like that. So our personalities really influence how we share messages, right? So, and how we even interpret messages. These are just some interesting findings. This is an overall statistic that most people are systematic. 69% people are. Now, everybody can have a little bit of everything, but there's usually one that you're more predominant in, and then there's a secondary one usually. But systematic seems to be what most people are, 69%, and then considerate is 17%. Spirited 11%, and direct 3%. That kind of surprised me, that statistic, but
that surprises me too. That seems really low.
I know it does seem low. And this, I don't remember what the year was from this specific statistic. It might have changed over the years, but I just always find those kind of things interesting, like how many people are. I love to figure out how people are wired. That's part of my thing. That's my jam, as I would call it. Okay, so we want to be able to recognize, it's important to recognize communication styles of other people, right? Especially in an organization, because everyone wants to know like better ways to communicate, but we also want to know better ways to be understood, right? So why is it important? It's important because it can reduce conflict. It can enhance our relationships with our coworkers, and of course, in our personal life too. It does foster team building. It adds value to other people, which is what we all want to be after. And then we learn to respect each other's differences, because we're not all going to be the same. And us being different is what makes the world go round, right? So adaptability. We have the reading style and the flexing style. And basically what that means is the reading style is developing that awareness of somebody else's communication preferences, right? So we want to be able to learn how to read people better. When we're having a conversation with somebody at work, we want to be able to look at them and say, okay, this person is a high D, I can tell. And then the next step is flexing our style. And this does not mean changing who we are, and it doesn't mean changing our personality or anything. It basically means that we want to adapt our behaviors to accommodate the communication preferences of somebody else. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If I'm talking to someone that's a high D, and again, that's somebody who's very direct. They want no details. Get to the point. Let's check it off the list, right? If I'm a different personality, any of the other personalities, especially if I'm a C or an S, I might want to remember that this person doesn't want the facts. They don't want the details. They just want to get right to the point, right? So making ourselves aware of and adapting to other people's personalities and styles is extremely important if we want to have a good working relationship. So this is a research study done by Bradley, Bauer, Banford, and can't say this guy's name too well, but Postaway. I think that's right. This was in the Journal of Applied Psychology. It says that teams with diverse communication styles perform better when the team members are aware of and adapt to those differences. This awareness facilitates better collaboration and reduces conflict. So that's just kind of a confirmation of why it's important for us to know and be able to be flexible with other people's styles. So with the HRDQ style model, we do believe that every team needs all 4 types, right? Because can you imagine working with somebody in an office if they were all Ds? Everybody wants to be in control, right? Or if we worked with everybody that was a C and they really were behind the scenes and didn't, we wouldn't get a whole lot of stuff done on the front end, right? So we need all of that. So how can HRDQ style assessments help you? The purpose of our assessments are, number one, to determine your style, to become a more effective communicator, and then develop the ability to connect. So what's the difference? Why HRDQ and not DISC or Strength Finders, or there's a lot of them. I can't even think of all the names. First of all, the HRDQ model is extremely straightforward. That's one of the things I love about it. It's very user-friendly. There's flexibility in its usage and how you can present it. So you have flexibility there. It's very, very easy to facilitate. And there's lots of tools for either on-site or virtual trainings. And then we even have an option for train the trainer training, coaching, which just helps the trainer to facilitate and get some tips and tricks on that. So we have our assessment can either be done online or in paper. And our assessments can be used as a standalone, but they're really, really better paired with a 4-hour workshop, because that's when we can really put everything into play, right? It's not just about getting more information.
And I'm sorry, Patti, how many questions are in the assessment? How long does it usually take for people to do it?
It doesn't take long. It takes maybe 15 minutes to do it. I don't know the exact number of questions that are in it off the top of my head, but I know it takes about 15 minutes to do.
And let me also just let folks know, if you have questions that you want to put in chat, go for it. We are going to open it up more broadly to questions. But as we're going along, if there's anything you want to ask, as you all know, we're very informal here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. So then we have, first we have the option of a virtual workshop, which obviously is doing it virtually, and it's the same exact materials. It's just done in a virtual atmosphere, which is still a lot of what we do at HRDQ and with a lot of companies actually. So this can be given by a facilitator in your company. And then we have on-site workshops, where we do come to the company or to a location of your choice and do the same training in person, which is the same thing that you can do for your company. Our facilitator guide is very thorough. It goes through every single step in the guide of the training process. It's complete with examples of how to make the best use of the materials, with ideas and case studies and things like that. So it's truly a facilitator guide that you can open up and go step by step of how to facilitate the training. And then our workbooks, these are used as a follow-up to the assessment, and they also are used in conjunction with that facilitator guide. So it has all the styles, the characteristics, the strengths, the trouble spots, and it even has icebreakers and activities in there as well. And then for our on-site trainings, we have lots of fun things. We have up in the left-hand corner, you'll see the sticker sheet. And these are just little stickers. It's just a fun way to display your style. You can put it on your desk. You can put it on your clothing, whatever you want to do. It's just a fun way to remind people of, I'm a D or I'm an I or whatever the case may be. And then we have our poster, which is a large poster that you can hang up if you're doing a training.
Leave the meeting. Audio.
It's a poster that you can hang up if you're doing a training, whether it be on the office door or wherever it is that you're going to do the training. And then we have the cue cards. We have a 5-pack of cue cards, which are just another little way to summarize the different personalities on a little cue card that you can have in front of you. Some people like to keep them in their desk and remind themselves, because these things really are effective in how we communicate with other people.
So I also just want to jump in and say that Trainers Warehouse, like I said, we've worked a lot with HRDQ over the years, and we have listed on our website the facilitator kit, the assessments, and I think the workbooks too. And my colleague Sarah will put in some of the links to those. Although we don't have we don't list the training sessions that Patti has referred to, and some of those accessories, we could help you get them or work with HRDQ to make sure that you get the resources that you need.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sue. And then we have our PowerPoint presentation, and the PowerPoint presentation can be used to enhance the facilitator guide. And you can use that the way it is. You can change it to meet your needs of your company or whatever you're using it for. But it basically gives you the whole presentation that you can use in conjunction with that facilitator guide. So I just wanted to share what I've learned and why I love the HRDQ model. First of all, I love it because of the reading and the flexing. I've done a lot of different personality things in the past. I've done DISC, I've done a lot of different things, but the fact of being able to learn about how to read what other people are and being able to flex my style has been extremely beneficial for me. For example, with my husband, because I am an ID and he is a CS. We couldn't be any different if our lives depended on it, right? And so, as you can imagine, in 36 years of marriage, there have been times where we've, butt heads. But I'll tell you, after learning this and after having him take the assessment, we have learned to understand each other better. Doesn't mean we always agree on everything, but we have learned how to. I know now that he has to take time before he can make a decision, and I just have to be patient. So that's just an example. And and I also feel like it's helped me because I had an email communication with someone not too long ago. And when you're communicating by email, as we all know, just like text, we have to reread what we write, right? Like we don't want to, we don't want it to come out in a way that we didn't mean it to come out, which is very common in when we write things, right? And it really helped me in that because the person that I was having the email communication with was somebody that we were in disagreement on something, and she didn't want to speak to me. So I had to be really careful. So I had to understand her, read what kind of personality she was and be able to flex a little bit so I could talk to her in a way that she would understand. So being able to read others' styles and then adding value to that person, because that's really what it's all about. So I love the fact that I can flex my style to understand other people better. And I find that now that I do this on a regular basis, every time I'm having a conversation with somebody, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I wonder if they are a C or an S or, and of course, after a few minutes, you can usually tell, right? This is just a cool quote that I found that says, I used to think communication was key until I realized comprehension is. You can communicate all day with someone, but if they don't understand you, it's silent chaos. And I just found that to be extremely true because communication is more than just talking to somebody and opening our mouths and saying something, or even our body language. It's got to be the whole package, and we want to be able to comprehend what other people are trying to say to us, right? So now I would like to open it up for a few questions. Anybody that has any specific questions about anything, whether it's the HRDQ tools, and if I can't answer them, I'll get you the answer, or just clarification on anything that I've shared. Kristen has her hand raised.
Okay, go for it.
I have a question about I have a question about the facilitator guide. Does it recommend the amount of people maybe in a workshop? Okay. Do you know that number off the top of your head?
It's recommended 8 to 12 participants.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Patti, maybe you can talk a little bit more. I know you had a couple of other slides about some facilitation tips, whether you're in person and online. And that may also help people to kind of get a sense of what this really looks like in the classroom when it's in use. Yeah.
Yes. So in person, obviously, just some tips to keep people engaged is to be able to, tell some good stories, incorporate things, personal experiences in with the training and facilitation, because there's nothing worse than just reading something to somebody, right? Show different case studies. That's always interesting to people to learn about case studies. And there are case studies in there, and you can also look up your own. You can even play games related to your topics. I know Trainers Warehouse is great at this. They have all kinds of games that you can purchase and use that are related to communication and personalities. You can even have handouts where people can do, like sometimes I'll do handouts where they can fill in the blank, or handouts where they can just have some notes to take home if they're not note takers. And then always ask questions when you're facilitating in person, because a lot of times people need clarification on things.
So if you were doing a communication seminar, would you, like in terms of the flow, might you introduce the model and do the assessment and then play some sort of communication team building game, whether it's, I don't know, a murder mystery or a leadership game or a team writer, whatever. I could name a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
And then use that as a way to think about to sort of highlight how people tend to talk to each other and bring that then back to the model and, what we observed. Is that how you would integrate
Yes,
it?
that's one way to do it. And really, it depends on what kind of time frame you have and whether you're
Okay.
doing it. So it's about a 4-hour workshop, this particular one, and it can be shortened. There's actually a shortened version in your facilitator guide where you could do it more like a lunch and learn type if you wanted to. Of course, you're skipping over a lot of that when you do it. It's better in the 4-hour workshop. But if you have the 4-hour workshop, then yes, you have plenty of time to do that and kind of bring that into the middle of the presentation. And then if you have for virtual, of course, it's not that different, but yet you have to keep people more engaged when it's virtual, because a lot of times, depending on the platform you're using, like we're using Zoom today and we're all looking at each other and I love that we can, look at each other and be able to see each other's expressions and stuff. But a lot of times there's platforms where you're not seeing anybody. I just did a couple of trainings this week where nobody's faces were on because they didn't want them on for bandwidth. And so that can be challenging for the person that's training, right? So things you can do, you still can tell the stories and give real life examples. Everybody loves a good story. Showcase studies. And again, there are a lot of those in the facilitator guide. You can take polls to break things up, take surveys, polls, get people to engaged, even have them open up their mic and answer a question rather than just chat, because then at least you're having a conversation with people. And of course, you can give them handouts ahead of time so they have them in front of them. They have different things in front of them that they can either take notes on or do a fill in the blank or whatever, pertinent to whatever it is that you're training on.
So I see, Lisa, you have your hand raised. Before we get to your question, I also want to acknowledge Stephanie, who's joined us from HRDQ. And
Hey, Stephanie.
Maybe you can just share. I know you also mentioned that you have some card games, I think style play, but do you want to take a minute to tell us about those?
Sure, we have 2 card games that go directly with all of the style series, including What's My Communication Style? And they're based off the 4 quadrants. And when you play those, it helps to solidify the learning. So there's style play and playing with style. So those are options if you wanted to use those as well to enhance the learning.
Okay. And style play, if I recall, like there's the starter kit that's about $400, but additional decks are
Yes, you can purchase additional decks as well.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, know those resources are also available. And like I said, if you find something from HRDQ that you want that we don't have, HRDQ and Trainers Warehouse play well together.
Yep,
so we can help you out.
Yes, yes, they can.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Lisa, I think you had your hand up, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have 2 questions. One, do you recommend the virtual or the face-to-face?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I said before, I'm an I. So I love doing things in person.
I is what?
I is the spirited.
Okay.
I love doing things in person. So if you have the option and you're the kind of person that loves to interact with people, doing it in person is great. But virtual, it's become a way of life, and you can get creative with doing virtual. So I think it's a personal choice, really.
Okay.
And if you have the option with your company, I would always prefer to do it in person if I had the option. But if not, you can really be creative with virtual too. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay. And then with the assessments, should you send those out ahead of time prior to the session or do them during the session?
You can do either way. We
Okay.
have people that do both. And basically the difference is it will take some time away from your training if you do it in the training. So it saves you about 30 minutes total if everybody does their assessments ahead of time.
Okay. And one more question, is there a report or something that comes out, or can you plug in the numbers, the data somewhere and create like a report for the organization or something like that?
Yes, there is Stephanie might have to help me with this. I don't know if it's in the facilitation guide. It's not in front of me, or the workbook.
What is it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The way for them to calculate their assessment and put it
Oh,
into a
yes.
report and put it into a
Yes,
report.
the score form is in the
Score.
assessment itself.
Okay.
So that would be self-scoring if you're going to do the paper. If you do it online, then it scores and gives you a report that's already got the algorithm scored and everything.
I think
Okay,
Lisa
so
was
that's
also asking about
individualized.
organizational results.
Yes, like all combined into one.
That
Is
would,
reporting that
that
way.
can be done on the online platform. If the online is used, we can provide that for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Questions or experiences using it? Sometimes folks have gotten it and can share some experiences. Anybody? All right. Well, we're just about at our half hour. Very good use of time, Patti. Thank you. You nailed it. And I will stay on for a while. And also, I have a couple of kind of follow-up questions for people about some new product ideas, a styles focused product that's coming soon that I would love to introduce. And I also want to let you all know that we've been kind of cleaning out our warehouse and we have a huge library of training books. And if you're interested in any, we also have some samples and so forth that I'll say a little bit more about. But before we get into that, let me kind of back up and just thank everyone for coming. Thank Patti for sharing this information. I think that the HRDQ tools are just great. You spoke to us about communication. You all also have one for leadership and for conflict management. And I'm sure Stephanie or Sarah can add others. But they're great tools. They're great resources. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks for everything.